Hi, this is Carl Dreschel. Today we're going to look at how GSX Monitor and GSX Analyzer can help you monitor, manage, measure, and analyze your SharePoint environment. This video is the second of a three-part series, and today we're going to cover advanced monitoring features, user modeling, and SharePoint performance statistics. With that, let's take a look at GSX Monitor. Okay, let's now take a look at the main view here for GSX Monitor, and we can go into some of the more advanced features for monitoring SharePoint environments. As explained in the first video, we have our general server status here, as seen in the LED, and we're doing log scanning and SQL scanning as well. If we double click on the server here, it's going to take us into our server settings screen. See down here on the left hand side, we have a SharePoint section with our scanning area. We come up here, this is where we have our general information about the SharePoint servers we're monitoring. So we have the host name, the domain it's in, and the credentials that we're using to access this server. For version, we can do scanning in both SharePoint 2007 and 2010 environments, and you can select the scan method that you'd like to use, whether that be SNMP or WMI. We have web services settings here. We can get to that in a minute. That's part of the user modeling section. SQL settings. So if we come in here, we can configure our SQL database information, what we're going to use for alerts if there's an issue with that, as well as if we have a SQL mirror, a second SQL box there that we can scan to make sure that's up and available as well. From a general scanning perspective, we have our scanning frequency. We can set that here. So every 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is that you prefer for your environment, and then the retry frequency if we get a system down alert. And then finally the alert threshold. So in this instance, we're going to scan every 5 minutes, retry if we get a failure every 1 minute, and alert in 1 minute after that. So if we get this down, within 1 minute we're going to get alert that there's an issue. We can also set the business hours on this so that we can have different alert thresholds for on hours and off hours. So in this case, if it's off hours, we won't get an alert until after 60 minutes. And then, of course, you can select your alert profile for your SharePoint being down, or if it's just a network issue. Okay, let's take a look at some of the other things we can do from a monitoring perspective here. We can also do log scanning for your SharePoint server, and that's configured here. Come into log settings, open this up. So you select your log folder, the scan interval. You have some options here below it, so we can limit the report to a certain amount of lines, obviously discard the repetitions, and also you don't want to scan things that you've already scanned. So we can take and select only the new documents, not processed documents older than a day, or whatever you choose. And then below here we have critical errors and non-critical errors. So you can set different keywords to look for critical errors and select an alert profile based on what you determine is critical. You could also then set an alert profile for things that you determine as non-critical. Maybe you'd like to know about warnings or things like that. You can set that up here and get an alert to it. Perhaps it's going to go to a different group, or be sent in a different method. So that's all configurable here, and that again is log scanning for SharePoint. Another thing we do is we can monitor your disk space threshold. So if you come in here, we take a look. We have the individual servers. Again, we have an alert profile associated with it, and the configuration for your disk space. So if we enable that here, it's going to look at any disks on that server, and you can be alerted either in according to megabytes or percentage. So in this case, if there's less than 500 megs available on a particular disk, you're going to get an alert. If there's a less than 10%, you're going to get an alert, and that can be configured however you would like. Okay, let's look now at some of our user modeling. we went and we saw in the SharePoint scanning section here where we set up the server, the web services settings. This is where we're going to set up a lot of our user-based or user-modeled tests. We take the different web services that SharePoint has available to it, and we perform a scan from a user perspective on that particular service. As we have set up here, we're looking at like alerts, site data, and how to return that information, the overall status about sites and the templates, the user groups web service, and of course the webs, so that you can work with the sites and the subsites. So it's configured in here. GSX is going to go out then at the set interval and perform the tests on these as if it was an actual user. And this is going to give you a better idea of what's going on in your environment, because it's one thing to be able to say that the server is up. It's another thing to be able to say that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing, and it's doing that in an acceptable manner. If we look now at the statistics page, you can see the results of some of those tests. Let me go to that here. Okay, so in the SharePoint Statistics, this is kind of part of another module, but we also have the web services here. All right, so alerts, site data, sites, user groups, and webs, and their access time. So this is going to say, yes, it is up and running. This is going to say what the performance is to an individual user. All right, so from a user modeling perspective, that's a lot of what we have here. Let's take a look now at SharePoint site performance. If we come in the Performance tab here, click on SharePoint site performance, we can see that we're running a couple of tests that will give us a better information on what's going on with our performance. So whereas we got a lot of that information from the user modeling perspective, this is where we're going to look at what the performance is for that and be able to set and send alerts for it. In this instance, we're scanning every 10 minutes, and we're setting an alert threshold or an access time threshold of 180 seconds. Okay, so in this example here, we have a couple of SharePoint servers or sites configured for performance monitoring with the basic information here, how often we're going to scan them, your access information, the threshold that you're going to set for the access time, and the number of failures that you're going to get before sending an alert. There's a couple different options for alert profiles. We're going to set a distinct set of alerts if the site is completely unavailable, and another set of alerts if the threshold is exceeded. With that information, it is graphed over time. You can see it below here, with visual representation of some spikes of performance in your environment. So it gives you a good overall idea of how things are working over time and what the user experience is going to be. Okay, so that is SharePoint site performance. Please join us next time. Let's look at what we have upcoming here. Okay, that's all for our video today. To recap, we went over how you can use GSX Monitor and GSX Analyzer to take a look at advanced monitoring features, user modeling, and your SharePoint performance statistics. As I said, there's one more video left in the series, the third and final video. In this video, we're going to look a little more in depth on server and performer statistics, how that information is used by GSX Monitor and incorporated with GSX Analyzer, so you can do reporting and trending and use that information to better manage your SLA. Thank you. Join us next time.